Clement Manyathela.
702. All right, so we're going to start a conversation now with Glynnis Breytenbach, who is a co-chairperson of Parliament's Joint Constitutional Review Committee. So this committee has received more than 250 proposals to amend the Constitution by the deadline on midnight Saturday. There are various parties that have made proposals, and I think there are some parties that have spoken, especially last week, about what they would like to see, what kind of amendments they would like to see. But various parties have made proposals to amend the Constitution. The Constitution has been amended, must have been 21 times or so, with the latest amendment being in 2023 to include sign language as an official language. And I've been asking you to give us a call on 011-883-0702, because often when you talk about the Constitution, yes, we praise it as one of the best in the world, but there's some people who just feel like, the Constitution doesn't work for me. And I've often argued that the Constitution is not self-executing. That's why we've got a political system that we have, because there are people that actually have to give life to that Constitution. But also the Constitution is not a perfect document that's cast in stone. You can actually suggest, propose amendments, and here's an opportunity that's been brought forward. And I wonder if you have participated, especially people who really think and believe strongly that, for instance, the Constitution has been anti-poor, or there are certain aspects that just don't work for the majority of South Africans. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that on 011-883-0702, or send us a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702 is the WhatsApp line. Glynnis Breytenbach joins us now on the line. Glynnis, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. So, what makes a good reason for amending the Constitution? Maybe let's start there.
Well, a good reason for amending the Constitution would be that an issue is brought to the attention of the Constitutional Review Committee that affects the majority of South Africans, that could improve the lives of the majority of South Africans. For instance, you mentioned the addition of sign language as an official language. That was an amendment that took a long time to process. There was a lot of public participation. There were a lot of in-person presentations. And eventually that happened, and we were very proud of it. And that certainly makes a big difference for the majority of South Africans. So a constitutional amendment can never be limited to a small issue for a small group. It must improve the lives, generally speaking, of South Africans, and it must help to keep the Constitution, keep pace with the changing world that we live in.
Absolutely. How was the public participation? Because as I indicated a few minutes ago, when we have conversations on this show about the Constitution, you hear all manner of thoughts. Some people believe it doesn't work for us, it's anti-poor. There are some political parties that have tried, I think the last time with the land expropriation without compensation, but that flopped because they didn't get the majority they needed. But when you look at public participation, did South Africans really come through in their numbers to give their thoughts on this one?
Well, for the advertised period, we got over 250 submissions. That's a lot. Some of them, of course, will be more serious than others. Some of them will be much bigger than others, proposing much bigger amendments than others. Those amendments those suggestions will all be worked through, sorted into categories of what kind of things they want to amend, how urgent they are, etc. And then, based on the proposal, either public participation by way of public comments, or public participation by way of public coming to Parliament and making presentations. That process will take place. So it's a lengthy process, and it will take the best part of a year to work through all of them and get to a point where we can decide that for this 7th administration, there may be 4 or 5 that we can take forward and try and get done. Then that needs to be drafted. The draft bills, the amending bills need to be drafted. Then they need to be worked through by the Constitutional Committee again. and then they are presented to the National Assembly. So it's a long and drawn-out process, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, and part of that process, my understanding is that these proposals will be sorted into these categories like definitely nots, the maybes, and definitely's.
Yeah.
What is the criteria? What would be, like, for instance, a definitely not?
Well, definitely not would be, for instance, we get some proposals that are not quite as serious as others. So a proposal, for instance, that we've seen before, wants to regulate the position of aliens. I mean, aliens not from different countries in the world, but aliens from different planets in South Africa. I mean, that's not a serious proposal, and it'll be a definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fascinating what some of the proposals actually say. What does it take then for a proposal to pass?
Well, as I said, it would have to be serious, must be doable, it must be achievable, and it must have an impact on the majority of South Africans. It must go some way to regulating, improving a current position that affects many South Africans. So that would be something that would land in a definitely pile, and then in that pile we'd have to pick those that we think we can get through and done in this parliament. Do as many as we can.
Yeah, as the Democratic Alliance, are there proposals that you've made? I know of one, I think, at the top of my head, because you already have a bill to amend the Constitution to ensure that a judge impeached for gross misconduct can serve on the Judicial Service Commission. And of course, that judgment last week as well, sort of, at least indicating that, the judge doesn't agree with how what the MK party wanted to do with the former judge in the Western Cape High Court, Judge President. So, have there been any other proposals for you as the DA?
We've made, I think, 3. So there's that one. There's an amendment we're proposing an additional Chapter 9 institution to act as an anti-corruption commission, so to deal with high-scale corruption and organized crime, and also a bill to deal with cybersecurity. So those are our submissions.
Glynnis, thank you so much for speaking to us. That is Glynnis Breytenbach, who is the Co-Chairperson of Parliament's Joint Constitutional Review Committee. I know that there are some parties that have indicated what they want. I wonder what the MK party want. I think they've asked for, I remember there was a time that they spoke about compulsory military service. And I wonder if that is something that could work or that perhaps couldn't work. But all these considerations are actually going to take some time. Maybe what we'll do is get some other parties so they can tell us what they think. But I want to hear from you as well. Like, what are your especially the people who have always had reservations about the Constitution? Again, nobody says our Constitution is perfect. There's a reason why you can even amend the Constitution. And that's why I indicated to you earlier on that so far it's been amended around 21 times. The last time was in 2023 to include sign language as an official language. There was an attempt as well a couple of years ago. What year was it? A couple of years ago, around the land expropriation without compensation. 2021. Yeah, 2021 if I'm not mistaken. The Constitution, like, they wanted to amend Section 25 of the Constitution to allow for land expropriation without compensation, but it flopped. It didn't really go through without the 2/3 majority that is required by the National Assembly. But as I said, there's often some of you who call in, and rightly so, to raise some concerns about our Constitution. What exactly would you like to see change? If you've made proposals yourselves, maybe you can share them with us, or maybe you haven't made proposals, but you do have some thoughts about what could change around our Constitution that could ultimately make South Africa a better country and improve the lives of the citizens of this country. Give me a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. It's 19 minutes now after 10.